What's your favorite scary movie?
Do you ever fantasize about
damn enchiladas?
That's much too vulgar display of power, Karen.
Let me ask you one question. Are you having fun?
We all go a little mad sometimes.
Because I promise you, you and I are going to have some fun.
Oh, no.
It is time to keep your appointment with the Wicker Man.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Shut up, you bitch hog.
Game over.
This concept was a choice.
Mm-hmm.
This concept of still Raven-sized coffin, because we do not have a title, but we will.
Raven-sized coffin.
Hang on. The Raven-sized coffin. And by the time this episode is out to your listening ears, I'm thinking of the future as I'm talking. There will be a title for this brand new series, which has taken over our Monsters of Universal series. Go check that out. We covered all 8 of the Blu-ray box set.
Yeah.
So by the time this comes out, I'm hoping what you just heard will have dubbed over title edits of the. This is professional. This is how they do it in the real world. But this was a choice.
Yeah.
This was certainly a choice, as I'm sure you've experienced this week. So have I.
Yes.
We'll get into that in a minute. Welcome back to Dreadcast. We have passed our Oak anniversary, as we did last week with our comedy and horror / horror in comedy episode. Good fun. Really good fun discussion episode. That is obviously out now. You can go check that out. I realised while editing it and talking to people about it, there were so many films we didn't even touch on.
Yeah, I know.
So many. I mean, we obviously couldn't. We talked about that beforehand. But it wasn't it wasn't an episode to like, now let's talk about this horror comedy or this comedy horror.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about this one.
Yeah, I mean, that's the topic. That's the topic. That's the point of those topic episodes, is that we just generally discuss a topic. I mean, it wouldn't have been. Something would have had to have got left out. Yeah, like I said, we did toy with the idea of possibly coming back and doing a part 2 at some point, but I think we talked about the subject as a whole. So as part 2 would just be looking at some of those movies that we didn't mention. Which we could always do as standalone episodes at some point in the future anyway, just like looking. I was tempted actually to pick for next month our to do one of the horror comedy horror, whatever you want to call it, mentioned in that episode, just as a nice follow on. But ultimately didn't, and picked something entirely different. You
did indeed, which we'll get onto in a second, actually, I think, because we can announce that. But yeah, that was good fun. Go check it out. Latest episode 80 of the Dreadcast. We're very close to episode 100, which I believe will be in the autumn, which has already been penciled in. October. Very exciting. Yes. Very looking forward to that. If that all plans out, October's going to be a good month. Yeah. Yes, go check it out. It was a good episode. No waffle today for about half hour of news that we've read from Bloody Disgusting or whatnot. No. We need to get straight into that. Well, May. You just mentioned you'd picked a film for May. Yeah. We are in the month of May. We're a little bit behind with April, but it's cool. It's all good.
Yeah.
What have you picked for May?
I have picked the Hammer horror movie, The Devil Rides Out. Christopher Lee.
Incredibly foreign to me.
1968, I believe. Well, as I was... So basically, we had a little discussion, didn't we, about what we were going to do, and rather than it be you pick a film and I pick a film, we decided that we just really only had time for one, and I'd pick.
Yeah, you do it. Yeah.
So I was like, all right, cool. So I was going through my DVD Blu-ray collection just to.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that later.
Well, find something to watch, and also I thought, just see if there's anything on there that jumps out at me as a pick for the episode. And I have a little Hammer Horror box set with, I think it's about 5 or 6 movies, similar to that Monster Universal one.
Yeah.
Not extensive by any means. I know there's a Hammer Horror box set that's got like close to 100 films in it. I think it's like a huge, big box set, but this is like a little small version, just half a dozen or so in there. And I think most of them are Cushing, Dracula ones.
Yeah.
But Devil Rides Out is in there as well, which I have seen once before. I remember enjoying it quite a lot. Haven't seen it in a long time, and I thought, you know what? Yes, that's what I want to do.
Incredibly good shout.
I think it's a well-known. I mean, you didn't know it, but
I am.
Generally, I think it's a well-known title amongst the. If you're a Hammer Horror fan, I'm sure you'll have heard of it.
That's
or
it.
A Christopher Lee fan.
I am very much on the outside of Hammer in general. So that's why I'm very excited to it. It's just
that was another thing. I thought we haven't really touched on Hammer, and I'm on a bit of a 70s 60s horror kick myself at the minute. So I was like, you know what, that ticks boxes for me. It's something we haven't looked at in the pod. So yeah, why not? So that's what we're doing. 1968 Hammer Horrors: The Devil Rides Out with Mr. Christopher Lee.
Oh. Oh, it's not with. I thought we were doing this. I thought we were reviewing The Devil Rides Out. Are we not doing this?
What is that? Is that a Paul O'Grady book?
Yeah.
That is the Sunday Times. No, it's to avoid any confusion, humble listener, we're not going to be reviewing the Sunday Times #1 bestseller.
But mate, it's
Paul
even
O'Grady.
funnier. It's even funnier and more touching than the million-selling first volume. I defy anyone not to enjoy it.
And that's not our words. That's the words of Jilly Cooper.
Oh yeah.
That is a good find. Maybe we'll see some similarity. We'll try and get a copy and read that. Maybe we'll find some similarities with the movie.
I mean, that's not going to happen, but maybe we'll do it.
I mean, I've been challenged by Jilly Cooper to not enjoy it, so I'm not one to back down.
Regardless, yeah, I'm looking forward to the film, the Christopher Lee film. So that's coming out in May. That'll be next, but I think after this actually. Yeah.
I think
and
so.
then capping off rest of May being Treehouse episode Simpsons, the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes 7 and 8. We're in the good stuff now.
Yeah,
we're in peak
Deep in the weeds.
Peak zone, guys. We're in peak zone, and then capping off. Nice segue here. Capping off the end of May as we return to our friend, the Raven-sized coffin.
Raven-sized coffin. That means we'll have to do another draw.
We'll do that. I think we do that now.
We can do that now. Yeah,
I think we do it now.
Okay.
And I'm gonna keep trying to promote this on the TikTok, and we'll see if you guys out there are listening. Go to the TikTok. That is _Dreadcast, and I'll put it on the Instagram, _Dreadcast, and the pics from this coffin, which will explain again what the pics are and all that, will be on the social medias, and basically want your help. So, the Raven-sized coffin. What is it? What is it? What are we doing today? What is in it? How did this come
coffin,
about?
Big enough to house the
raven.
body of a raven.
That's it. We're done. That's it. That's the point of it.
There is currently no raven in there, so we want you to send us a raven.
What animal would you put in here?
It's full of categories of movies. We had a bit of a brainstorm over a couple of weeks, and we wrote down as many different.
You gave most of them, I think.
Tropes, selection categories.
Do you know what? That's the hardest part when describing this. Describing what these are. Criteria.
Say the movie categories. Yeah. So there's things. So as an example, there's things like werewolf films. There's things like we'll be doing today.
Today's example.
Title. Yeah. There's like specific run times. There's specific Amazon star ratings or bloody disgusting ratings, or there's just a whole bunch of like keywords and catchwords and buzzwords and sort of genres and subgenres. The idea being, stick them all in the Raven's House coffin, give it a good old shake, pick out a couple, and then each of us has to find a film that fits those categories.
Yep.
We then each watch those films, and we have a little discussion, comparison, and
which one's best?
Pick a winner.
We'll pick a winner.
Yeah. The overriding category or caveat for all of this is that we're not looking at, good franchises or movies. The sort of, we're setting our sights low from the offset.
Perfect example being one of today's picks, Nightmare in the Title. No Nightmare on Elm Street. No Nightmare on Elm Street
is off the table. We're looking, so we're looking down. And so as we've said previously, we'll just to reiterate, we had Nightmare in the Title.
Yep.
And
there it is.
Sub 80 minutes runtime, I believe.
80 minutes or less.
80 minutes. 80 minutes.
These are backwards on the camera, so believe me, they are there.
But that's what they say.
Yep.
So Nightmare in the Title or 80 minutes or less runtime, which was a horrible combination.
For the first ones, yes, it was.
It was a horrible combination. The runtime specifically, was hard. But there aren't a lot of. There are less films with Nightmare in the Title than you might expect for horror. Yeah,
there really are. It was an interesting bit of research when we were having to pick this, I think. When we do the next pick in a second, these will be kept out, so it'll be completely fresh picks. So I think that you describe. I tried to lean into you describing it because you're a lot better than this than me. You described it beautifully. Quick sum up: it is basically a tombola with loads of random picks in. 2 picks get picked, and we have to find films relating to whatever they say on the pieces of paper, and we review it. That is it. And that is going to happen every month. That is replacing our Monsters of Universal series. So that is what will be capping off the end of May. But to cap off the end of May, we need 2 picks. We need to find our films early because we've got to watch 2 films for 1 episode. So
it's a bigger ask.
Now I do wish we had the technology that you could just reach through the screen and pick, because I feel bad you can't pick. So maybe
I trust you.
Maybe we get this up on a like a randomizer.
But we like physical things. We practical effects, Tom.
Who doesn't want a raven-sized coffin?
Exactly.
I'm going to have a raven come out of here at one point. So, shall we pick? Shall I pick?
Yes.
Oh, shake. We need to add more into. All right.
I can't remember what's in there already, but I can write some more down.
Not looking. Hang on. Not looking. Well, that feels like a good one.
Go on, drum roll.
50 minutes or less.
You are joking.
Oh, all right. Between 1975 and 1980.
Oh, okay.
That's nice. That's broad. That's 5 years to work with.
Oh, I feel this. The second one might be.
The problem is, if I now pick out Set in the Hood, we could be in trouble. We could be in trouble.
Yeah.
All right. Second pick. Got it. I'm scared. Oh, we're in for a treat. We are.
Go on.
Camp in the Title.
Oh, yes. Okay.
That could not be more perfectly matched.
I feel like this is. We're getting that peak time period.
This is perfect.
Friday the 13th rip-offs.
Camp killers. Yep.
Yeah.
Camp in the Title, and between 1975 and 1980. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is good. So obviously, as I said, Friday the 13th is off the table. I mean, it's off the table anyway because Camp is not in the title.
Oh, it's way off the table.
We are looking, we're looking sort of the lower end B movie or less.
I tell you what is potentially way off the table. To check the year on it. No, it's after Sleepaway Camp.
Sleepaway Camp.
It's 1983. Actually, now thinking about it, 75 to 80. That's pre. That's pre peak Camp Killers.
Oh yeah, I was
Yeah.
thinking 75 to 85. It will be. You're right.
I was thinking 85 to 90 for some reason. Yeah, no. Okay, all right. That's a bit more challenging then.
Oh well, we'll see.
All right, cool.
But yeah. You're right. Sleepaway Camp's all back end of the 80s, isn't it? So.
All right.
Right.
Interesting.
Well, yeah. There it is.
Well, we've got a month to find something. So. All right. That is the gist. That is what we've got coming up for May. And if you out there in internet land have any ideas or films that you think would fit that criteria, put it in the comments. Remember, it's camp in the title and set between 1975 and 1980.
Or if you have any criteria, for example, if you want to chuck in a couple more options.
Good man. Well done.
Feel free to let us know. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Put them in there. Right. Today's double bill then. My pick was Nightmare Sisters. Runtime 81 minutes, but I think it was a lot of that was credits. Your film, Nightmare.
My film, Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker.
I'm going to say one thing before, because we've already discussed
79 minutes.
We've already discussed how we're going to go about this episode. We're going to go one film, but then by one film, not mix and match. I'm going to say one thing before we do get into this. I know which one's my winner, and I know which one I'd remember more.
Yeah, okay.
So, who wants to go first? What should we talk about first?
You know what? I'll go first.
Well, it's both of us, but you want to go with your one first?
We'll go with my one first, because I think yours is going to be a doozy to talk about. Mine is a little bit more formulaic. So, yes, Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker. It was 2023. It had 1-star rating on Amazon, which I was also quite pleased at, because I was like, yes, this covers another topic, which hasn't been picked, but never mind. And a runtime of 79 minutes, I believe, was what I found on a couple of sources. You seem to think it was longer, didn't you? But
I don't know why. I don't know why I found that it was longer.
It came up somewhere else. It was longer.
Can I just say, a website called Horror Asylum that you would assume is all about horror, gave this film 92%.
Really?
That's 92% too high, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. It's not. It wasn't good.
It was. I haven't been. I don't think I've been so bored in a horror film since Outwaters.
Yeah.
Or Antrim. But it was. I was bored.
I was bored.
Yeah.
I was. To be honest, I was bored watching both films, though. I'm not gonna lie.
But I remember the other one.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. So Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker, which is a awful title.
It's awful.
It's a mouthful. It's like pick one or the other. Is it Nightmare Radio, the Night Stalker?
Well, because technically it is
the
concept is Nightmare Radio,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a Night Stalker during the Nightmare Radio portion.
But I thought, so before I get into what the actual plot is, I thought it was like, you know, the video game series, the Dark Pictures Anthology.
Oh, Until Dawn.
Yeah.
And things like that. Yes.
And it's like the Dark Pictures Anthology, then the title. I thought it was one of those sort of things. So like Nightmare Radio was a thing, and it's Nightmare Radio presents the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
Like it was going to be a horror podcast that had, footed the front of the money to make this movie. And it's not. It is, as you say, because there are just two stories in here. So essentially, it's an anthology movie in the same vein as VHS or something like that. The central plot is that it's a radio show, late night radio show, that you've got sort of goth girl alternative host, and she is asking callers to phone in with their scary stories. So you get 5 little anthology segments, 5 little stories. that are interspersed with scenes in the radio station.
I just preface that with little. They are short.
Yeah, they are very short.
To the point of kind of nonsensical because they're so short.
Yeah. That is one of the main issues, that they are short, too short to get into. There's a couple that I like. There's a few that I don't like, but yeah, the ones that I liked, it was like, oh well, it's a shame you just didn't do more with that. Each is directed by a different person. I had a look at the back catalogue of the filmography of each of the shorts directors, and it seems like primarily all they have done is shorts. Nobody have done anything long form since or before. Yeah, as is the case with all these sorts of anthology things, the shorts are a bit hit and miss. The story that's interwoven, the sort of this bit that's set in the radio station, was kind of interesting. Essentially, she's getting stalked. One of the people that calls in is a guy called, or calls himself Jack.
Jack, yes.
And sort of as the film progresses, his calls become increasingly more disturbing, and it's revealed that essentially he was slighted. The DJ is called Candy Blue. Yeah, Candy Blue. Yeah, yep. She's a rock chick. She's got we'll give her an alternative name.
She's so alternative.
She could have been called Raven Death Splash or something like that if they wanted to go.
Raven Death
She's
Splash.
called Raven Coffin. She's called Nighthawk.
So Raven.
So yeah, she has this caller Jack who increasingly is getting a little bit more sort of frightening as he calls in to essentially threaten her. It seems that she's slighted him at a bar that they met in, and he's kind of out for revenge. So between the segments that are all obviously filmed in different locations with different actors and telling different stories, we have this sort of Night Stalker storyline.
Oh my god, that's the title of the film.
They said the thing. They did the thing. So that's where the two sort of halves of the title come in. She's running a spooky radio station, which seems to be mainly she has the same reaction to like every story when it cut, because there's a lot of like hard cuts to now we're in a tale, and it's not till after the fact that we see that she's on the line with a caller and basically says, "Oh, that's an urban legend. I've heard that one."
Well, that's evident with the first story, which I thought this was the film I'm watching, because the first story
is
you're kind of just you're in.
Yeah,
it's like the middle of it's like the middle of Ring.
Okay. It is, yeah. So essentially, the film it opens with a woman asleep. She's woken up with the TV playing some sort of like Ring-esque horror type stuff.
Not baffled by it one bit. She's very just.
And then there's a lot of books are flying off the shelves. Yeah. There's a little haunted doll, spooky stuff, and then is it a bride? I think it's a woman in a bride.
Yeah, it looks like a bride. Yeah,
and it's all very like what's going on, and then it cuts to the radio thing, and Candy Blue is telling this story that we've just watched, and it's like, okay.
Oh, but why do I care about this story? Why do I care about it?
And that feeling of why do I care will continue.
I don't know who this woman is. I don't know why she's being stalked by this demon, which we've talked about. I think we've talked about before. That kind of bothers me with paranormal stories, where why are demons just there to be dicks? I mean, demons are necessarily like, when you talk about spirits, ghosts. Ghosts are like ghosts and demons are very different things. Demons are kind of evil, but this one's just being a dick, like fucking with the TV, the lights flickering, and then just getting in their face, going bah!
There was of some,
which we get again. We get again later on. Yeah. Why do they scream? Why do they just want to scream in your face?
Because they're just frustrated.
With what? Dead.
I don't know. So yeah, so that's sort of how it works. So this first one, I've got the names of the little tales here. The first one is called Playtime.
Are we talking about? Is this technically the second story?
No, that first one.
Oh, the one with the one we just talked about.
That we just talked about. Yeah. It's a short on its own. It's called Playtime because I think the doll says something about like I want to play or some. But yeah, it's all very confusing, and by the time it really is, it's over and it's done with, and you're like, oh, okay. Then we have a story called Foxes, which is about a photographer. It's an Irish couple. They live in this. It's like a new build estate, but they're the only people that live there.
I am so glad you brought up the location. I was fascinated actually with this location.
Yeah,
because it's wild. It looks like one of those abandoned cities in China, right, where they've built up all this development and they've run out of money and no one lives there.
Yeah,
because no one clearly does live there.
No,
but where the hell is this?
Well, I mean, they're an Irish couple, so I'm assuming it was shot on location. I think the director for that one was Irish as well, a chap called Lorcan Finnegan. So I'm assuming it was shot on location in Ireland somewhere.
I'll give it to him. It's some really nice shots.
Yeah,
it's vast. Unless they added more and more.
It looked. I suspected some of it might be a little bit digitally expanded. But yeah, it's like you say, it's quite haunting because it is this new build estate, and you know all the lawns are overgrown apart from theirs because they're the only people that live there.
Don't buy a new build home, folks.
And essentially, they have a strained relationship. They're not really getting on. She's kind of unfulfilled with her work. She's a photographer, and she's struggling. And then she basically runs away and becomes a fox.
That's it. Folks, that's it.
That is it.
That's the story.
Long story short, short story short.
She also has heterochromia, which I noticed, which I didn't know if that's a fox aspect or it's just her. That then he could, when he discovers the foxes that have been ravaging through their bins every now, he goes out the final night and sees the fox with heterochromia, and then he's like, it must be her. She's somehow turned into a fox.
So yeah, she's walking up by the foxes, like going through the bins.
She's obsessed by them.
Goes out to take some photographs and gets increasingly obsessed with the foxes, and then runs away and joins them and becomes one. And it's the
and the fox screams
that give it away. Yeah, it's.
Did you notice how awful the audio as well? What the audio mixing in this one was? They were so quiet. Their audio mixing was so quiet. Okay, that's technically the second story.
So they're just like I say, these are all interspersed with more Candy talking to Jack on the phone.
Yeah.
But I'm not
she gets a treat. She gets like a gift.
She has a gift. Right at the beginning. There's a present waiting for her. I'm not going to go into every little interaction they have. We'll just stick to the story. So the next one was called
There's not enough meat. There's not enough meat on this. There's very little meat on this. The
next one's called Playback, which is about a guy.
Fuck if I know what happened in this.
watching TV, and it's essentially CCTV footage of a woman being stalked by a mass killer and killed
in like a hallway of an apartment building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it looks like CCTV footage, but like I said, there's no setup, so that it's not like he's like sitting down to watch a movie and this is what the movie is. It's just on his TV playing. He then hears a scream outside, goes out into the hallway of his apartment and finds the woman and the killer sort of in a tussle, and oh my god, it's real. He runs back into the apartment, and on the TV again is the killer chasing him, but it's not the scene we've just seen, because the killer then catches him and kills him, and then he looks down to find that he's bleeding to death from a stab wound in the stomach.
Right. Did you get all that, folks? You are a stronger man than I, because the only note I took for this was third story, odd. I didn't know what to write about it. I didn't know how to caption this or describe this. I'm glad you have been able to vocalize this story, because I just don't know what they were going for here.
Yeah. So, well, when it cuts back to the studio, Candy is talking to somebody called Bob, who reveals that it's a description of a dream he had, and it's like, okay, yeah. And it sort of makes sense that sequence feels a little bit more dreamlike after the fact, but yeah, it's
because dreams don't make sense really for the most part. So this feels like just a concoction of.
Whereas I preferably like my films to make sense.
I would say the next story is probably it's the most short story film like.
It's the most fleshed out.
It's very basic.
But it is very basic, and you've seen it a million times before. It's
very
a guy
basic.
Looking around an abandoned hospital with some sort of city worker, estate agent. I couldn't really work out what the job role was.
I think he's looking. It's like a set visit in a way. He's
looking for
a film.
Yeah, he's looking for location shots to shoot a movie. And through their conversation as they're exploring, we basically find out that this place is haunted by the ghost of a patient. It's an abandoned hospital where, surprise, surprise, the patients had experiments performed on them, which isn't the trope for every haunted abandoned hospital asylum ever. Absolutely ever.
I wrote down what she said when she was describing. So the nurse was originally found dead. She killed herself in the room following the death of her baby. The doctor killed the baby during birth, as he believed it was the devil.
Yeah,
spawn
for
of Satan.
Reasons. Just
Which then made, obviously, the nurse was distraught, killed herself, and now she is the haunted.
Yeah. And then they're
very loose, very weak.
We do. We get this exposition as they're walking around. We also then find out that she comes basically her father and grandfather were all. And great-grandfather were all doctors in this hospital while it was active. And surprise, surprise, it was her great-grandfather that was the doctor that killed the baby and caused all this. And then basically they both get offed by a ghost. The ghost effect's pretty good.
Yeah, there's a point I thought was very funny. So they're together throughout the whole, like they're side by side. When the first scares start to occur, They both turn, she runs off, and as soon as he turns, takes maybe 2 steps and trips up, and then he kind of gets mauled to death on the floor. They were so close together, he trips up. She would have noticed that or been able to turn around. Oh, God, come on. She's gone. Oh, she's the Flash. She's gone.
Every person for themselves, I mean.
I'm trying to think too logically with this. You can't think too... Well, you can think logically when it's a 92% rated film. There's the director, his characteristics, he's very cocky, he's very arrogant, he's very Hollywood director. Yeah, I mean, low budget obviously, but yeah, this is gonna be cool, this is gonna be wild, this is gonna be dope for a hot horror film. Yeah,
he's very much like who's its character in Barbarian? Is it
Justin Long?
Very much like Justin Long's character.
Yes, good shout. Good shout. This is filmed like a horror film, but yet there's a point where he brings out a camera and it goes to a POV view from the camera, and then goes back to the film. You can't cross streams like that.
I mean, it's a short film. They've done some tricks. It's a polished student film.
It's
competent.
What I mean? For this whole film, it's probably the most competent short film, I think.
It felt very much like a Supernatural episode. I did expect like the Winchester brothers to rock up. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's identical to at least 2 Supernatural episodes. But yeah, it was fine. Probably, like you say, probably the best of the lot.
Fine. It was fine. That's exactly it.
Was fine.
Yeah,
it was fine.
Fine.
That's my review of the film. It was fine.
Fine.
So yeah, Candy and Jack's stories progressed a little bit, and there's a little revelation that he's in the building.
Well, the revelation, I thought it was going to be a double turn because she's in the soundproof DJ booth, with glass screens in front of her, and you see a person's reflection rather than him coming down. He's got it's a bottle, in one hand. You don't see the axe in the other hand. So when the reflection is appearing in the window, I thought it was going to be a fake out jump scare and like a colleague, like with a bottle, and it was going to make her go, oh, Steve, what are you doing here late night? It's like, I just came, just doing some late night work. Fancy a drink?
A drink.
And then suddenly whack in the back, like Willie, in The Simpsons, he gets killed, and then we get the reveal of the killer. Rather not, it was just the bottle in one hand, an axe in the other, and there's our killer. It wasn't really much of a revelation scare.
No, I mean that comes later. We've got more stories. So the next one, I just did not know what was going on. So the next one is called Liz Drives. Oh my god! Again, the audio in the car was awful. This was an Australian section.
They're all prisoners.
So it's two sisters.
Day release.
On a drive at night. This is actually a story that's not a caller. This is a story that Jack tells that's supposed to prove his point somehow.
Yeah.
But I could not work out for the life of me what goes on. So these two sisters driving late at night. I'd very much lost my steam with the movie at this point and just could not be bothered to.
I was getting really bored.
I could not be bothered. Yeah. So I do not really know. The confusion of this section is probably down to my lack of interest at this point, rather than
I was exactly the same.
Being confusing. I will say that, but yeah, they're driving late at night. They stop at a petrol station. Suddenly, another car turns up, and a guy gets out. He grabs one of the sisters, drags her off into the car, and drives off. Essentially,
yeah.
The other sister does see that there's a woman in the back of the car, this man's car, looking distressed. So she instantly assumes that, this is a kidnap situation and, awful. She phones the police and then she jumps in her car and sets off. And it's basically a car chase through rural Australian bush roads, very windy, twisty-turny. She loses the car. She's chasing. She stops. She gets out of it randomly. That's going to help. And then suddenly finds it again, sets back off, and then finds it. Finds that he's crashed. Everybody in the car's dead. But there's a baby.
Yeah.
And it ends. And I think the sort of twist is meant to be that he wasn't kidnapping her for nefarious purposes. He was trying to get his pregnant girlfriend to the hospital.
Yeah.
But kidnapped her. But there's no reason why he kidnapped her still.
Was it, do you reckon, because I never got the vibe or the feeling when he put her in the car that there wasn't much force put towards her to get her in the car. He was shaking and kind of panicking and led her.
And she kind of does, she does kind of get led. And then he drives off.
Is it to help with the pregnant woman while he drives?
I think that's kind of what I pieced together after the fact. But yeah, like I said, if I could watch it again, and it might make perfect sense if I actually pay attention to the dialogue.
Oh, don't watch it again.
But no, I'm not going to watch it.
Never watch this
again. If, hypothetically, if I watch it.
Big if.
But yeah, as I said, by this point, I was just very bored and was kind of hoping that was it.
No, another one. We get one more.
We get another one. So they managed to shoehorn another one in, which I kind of like this one. Initially,
it wasn't bad. Well, they're all pretty bad. The third one, like we said in the hospital, is probably the most competent. This one, though, I feel like not as competent, but could have been a full feature film.
it really needed expanding on.
Yes.
It really needed a little bit more explanation as to just what was going on, because I felt it was like several things and ultimately got answers for nothing. So I don't really know. But basically, it's set in a vineyard. The short was called Chateau Sauvignon. The director of this one was called David M. Knight Mayer. 2 separate words. Like, I was like, oh my god. So yeah, it opens up and it's a filthy house. There's like just what looks like rotten food, and somebody in a bed is being injected with something, and then there is some slop going into a jar.
Yeah.
And it's all very like Resident Evil 7, like moldy food and manky, and yeah, it could have been the Sawyer house from Texas Chainsaw Massacre or something like that. It was just generally grim and horrible. And there's somebody in a bed that needs injecting, and then it cuts to somebody pulping things in an old wine press.
You're a better man than me at describing these, because seriously.
And at this point, I thought, right, we have some. There was also a little indication that this person in the bed needed things dark, and I was like, right, okay, we've got vampires, and they're pulping people or animals maybe for the blood to keep this vampire family member fed but like out of harm's way and other people safe. I thought that's what it was going to be. So we have this father and son relationship, and the dad's just a bit of a prick, and the son looks very pale, like he's
very
like, you know, wouldn't
I like
be
the
out
setting.
of place. Yeah, that's what I mean. And it was kind of weird, and like I was getting vampire vibes or maybe cannibal-y family vibes. It was all right. It just didn't expand. Like if that was like a proof of concept thing for somebody, like, oh, I've got a pitch for a film, this is about this, here you go.
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh
shout.
yeah, this is interesting, I want to see some more of it. But yeah, it never really explained what exactly was going on. No. We have another couple, a mother and son. They turn up at this chateau for a tour, basically. The dad says to send them away. The son decides to give them the tour anyway, and then basically tries to kill them both. Ultimately, does kill them both. It's confirmed that they are pulping human remains for the blood, and then it ends. We don't know why, really. We get a shot of the person in the bed again, who is like, I'm assuming the mother, and she kind of looks
think it is,
like a zombie. She kind of looks
somewhat, yeah.
But and there's a conversation that the father and son have that she's getting worse. So maybe she's a zombie, and but yeah, that's it. There's not enough explained. It is confirmed that they are killing people and pulping them for the blood. But
pulping's such a, when you relate it to like people, is a horrible word.
They like the blood with the pulp. I like the one that says some pulp. But yeah, it's not explained why. So it was like, I like the vibe, I like the setting. It was all very predictable what was happening to a certain extent. Like, I knew that they were going to get killed. I'd worked it out pretty much instantly that we were dealing with people mash. But yeah, we never got there was no explanation as to why. So that was the final segment. And then we have the sort of final set piece is Jack and Candy.
Wraparound.
In the finale of the wraparound, they're in the radio station. That radio station was like the house from Fight Club. It was
the house. It looked like a house.
Well, it's a house. Yeah,
it's a house.
But specifically like the house from the Paper Street house from Fight Club. It's abandoned and derelict, and there's graffiti everywhere. And yeah, I think they were trying to go for like a, rock radio station aesthetic, but it just looked like they were recording in an abandoned crack den.
Yeah,
it was horrendous. So she locks herself in the bathroom. Jack does his like Jack Torrance. Here's Johnny, axe through the door bit, and essentially gives her an ultimatum: like, you let me essay you, and I'll let you live, or you don't let me essay you, and I will do it anyway, and also murder you.
You don't have a choice in this matter.
Yeah, what a choice.
Oh yeah, superb.
So she basically consents to option one, unlocks the door, lets him in, and actually that's when we get the Chateau Sauvignon short. Then when we come back after the fact, which that's what bugged me about that last section, that last story the most.
Yeah,
is that we'd set up this like pretty horrifying, tense confrontation between Jack and Candy, and then at the sort of peak of that, it cuts to another random short segment. And like, just that should have cut. If they wanted to put that in, that should have come earlier in the film, and they should have left this final confrontation. I mean, I didn't want to see a.
I know what you mean.
That's not what I'm saying, but it was too. It pulled away because all of a sudden now I've got to get invested in another tale instead of what's going on in this bit.
That's why a lot of anthologies kind of keep it to 3, maybe 4.
I think 5 was too many.
With a longer running time for the film in general, so you get more meat on the bone of each short story.
Yeah, I mean, they could have done away with that first one as well, I think.
Oh, it was pointless.
It was entirely pointless.
I mean,
because we ended up getting the exposition of ring in with your horror stories afterwards. Yeah. So yeah, it wasn't very good. It was confusing. It was rubbish.
Keep the Fox, keep the hospital one, and maybe keep this one.
The Fox, the hospital, and Chateau. Yeah,
that's all you need.
They're probably the best ones. Which is,
I mean,
it's a stretch, but yeah,
it
was. They were the most interesting ones. So he has he gives her this ultimatum. She unlocks the door, lets him in. We cut away to the chateau. We come back to see a very haggard Candy. She's bloody and looks beaten. She's sort of staggering down the corridor, and we know what's gone on, or we think we know what's gone on. She sits down and says something edgy into the microphone, and then it cuts to a shot of Jack in the bath with his throat ripped out.
The tables have been turned.
The tables were turned, and it ends. And I don't know if she was supposed to be a vampire. I don't know if that's what they were angling for.
I don't know. I don't know what they were angling for with this.
Because if she was always capable of fighting him off, like, you could have done that sooner. And that Night Stalker story could have been flipped on its head earlier.
Yeah.
With her actually being more, he thinks he's being threatened. Yeah, he thinks he's being threatening, but what actually is, the tables get turned quicker. It was a nice little twist, I guess, but I saw it coming. As soon as I saw her, like, sort of appear in the hallway, she's not actually been attacked here. She will have killed him. And yeah, it was. I must admit, I think on the whole, I enjoyed it more than I expected I was going to.
Interesting.
There were definitely some segments that should have gone.
Yeah.
But not really knowing what I was getting when it started. I really didn't know what to expect from this. I didn't know it was going to be an anthology. I only had the title to go off. I didn't look at any other material about it. I didn't know what I was going to get. And I was like, I'm glad it's finished, but I felt like I definitely sat through worse.
Okay. It reminded me a bit of. Have you ever seen any Glenn Danzig's films?
No, but I've heard
Verotica.
I have heard.
horrendous anthology film. Really, really bad. He's not good at making films. And this is a better Glenn Danzig anthology film, but it's bottom of the barrel of anthology horror films, in my opinion. Like, there are the worst VHS film is better than this. There's still some competence, at least, with those films.
The pacing of this was off. It was slow. It was slow, and it could have definitely been punchier. And I think, like I said, just drop it. I mean, to say it was a sub 80-minute runtime film anyway, it felt longer because
big time.
They needed to drop some of those. Say 2 out of the 5 segments short stories is a lot. And like I said, this is kind of why it felt like a student collab. Like somebody's final project, like, oh, I'm going to direct this thing, and my mates are all going to do their short, and fair play to them. You got a film made, great, but yeah, it felt overlong, and strangely, it felt overlong, but also didn't have the time to fully flesh out some of the things it should have done. So it was a weird clash between.
They wanted to just fit so much in.
Everyone
had to get involved.
We couldn't let anybody down. Everybody's piece had to be included.
Yeah. So
that was that. I mean, that was the plot.
That's Nightmare Stalker. I think we went about 20 minutes. You went. You did. Superb. Golf clap to you. So getting through that, because I wasn't intending to I wasn't leaving that all to you. I know it's your pick, but we're working this together. But you did so well to get through.
And I didn't really want to deep dive too much into it.
No.
In terms of plot, I was trying to get through that as quick as we can, because as I say, we know we've got a lot to get through with this episode. I mean, there is
much more to go on with it.
Again, that sort of student film feel where they weren't really professional actors.
The camera work looked pretty. I mean, it was very crisp and clear, but for the fact it's a 2023 film, I'd expect good camera work.
You'd expect good camera work. The effects were decent. I don't think there was anything particularly bad about any of the special effects.
No.
The blood effects were good. Nothing looked particularly fake. I think things were shot well enough that blood looked real, and dark, the filming was dark enough to not give too much away. And like I said, the ghost special effects in the insane section was they were okay. They were decent.
They were okay. They were okay.
They were, like I say, on a par with a high-ish budget TV show like Supernatural, for example. The ghost effects in that.
I mean, it's not a tremendously bad film. It's boring, and it has some issues in the way of a third of it needed to be cut out. Yeah. And the rest of what's left needed to be worked on more, needed to be fleshed out.
Yeah, that's what it is. Was its main downfall at the pacing, and this sort of attempt at doing too much. Because there were stories there that needed more expanding on. Yeah. Rather than just being these little what the hell have I just watched segment that didn't really go anywhere or do anything. And by the time you've sort of wrapped your head around what that was, we've moved on to something else. It wasn't breaking any ground. We had somebody being stalked in a late night radio station. We've seen that before.
It feels like it's been done before, yeah.
I mean, it has been done before, hasn't it? Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2.
Oh my god, yes. With
Lords of Salem has that kind of weird late night radio element.
Absolute best friend of the show, Caroline Williams. Yes, she still has a vendetta against me.
As we're watching it, my partner Vic, she said, like, "Oh, this is like that Texas Chainsaw Massacre we watched." And I was like, "This is not going to be as good."
Well done. There's no chop top in this one.
No.
Yeah,
what
was I to say?
There isn't really very much more to say. Would I recommend it? No.
No. As far as anthology films, no.
No, you're not missing anything. Just there's better things to watch out there. There really isn't any more to say than that. There are better anthology films out there.
Last thing I actually will say on it is it's actually got a great poster.
Oh, which is
I think the poster's really good. It's kind of some of the artwork.
Is it like
actually,
the blue?
Now we look a bit closer. Some
light.
of the artwork's a bit odd.
The poster has very sort of strong 80s vibes. I'd say.
It does. Well,
it looks like it's kind of reminiscent of like Fright Night or I don't know.
I mean, it's a bit like a Marvel film, like a superhero film with all the heroes. All the heroes are here.
So we have Candy in the center, surrounded by all the sort of villains of the various shorts. Weirdly, the legs.
I was about to say the legs are really off. Whose legs are they?
I don't know. I think they're supposed to be Jack's legs behind her, but it kind of looks like she's got comedically large legs on a really small body. Like she's some sort of
you're right.
Weird spider creature. But yeah, it looks. I can't. It's annoying me because I can't think of a specific movie poster that it reminds me of. But it has a strong vibe of like 80s horror films. The Fright Night is the one that springs to mind, but I think that's color. I think it's just the color scheme that's making you think Fright Night. It looks. You do look at it and go, I don't know what this is. Monster Squad. What's the poster for Monster Squad? Maybe
that's true. Yeah,
maybe that's what the vibe is that it's giving me. Actually, yeah, it is. It's exactly the Monster Squad video. Poster.
As we're talking about it, and you brought it up, Fright Night, the poster for that falls in the category of just checking. We actually did this on the series, so you've got Gates of Hell poster, Return of the Living Dead 2 poster, and Fright Night. They all are pretty much the same house, building, or like skyline with spooky cloud, skull, demon above it. They are all the same. People under the stairs,
is that, and it's that same sort of grey, blue, misty. Yeah, there's a lot like Slaughterhouse, Buddy as an axe to grind. That's got that same sort of blue backlit, blue, dark, like almost black, and then blue, grey. Hellraiser has that color palette. Yeah, there's a lot of Army of Darkness has that same color palette. But yeah, it's the Monster Squad movie poster. That's what it reminds me of. So yeah,
Nightmare Radio.
Nightmare Radio, The Night Stalker. But like I say, it does feel like we could potentially get Nightmare Radio, the horror dustbin, like another Nightmare Radio presents Camp Death Rattle or whatever.
Is that a film from 1975 to 1980?
If it is, I'm picking it. It's mine. My pick.
That's Nightmare Radio for 2023. Yep.
Yeah. There you go. Don't bother.
Don't bother.
Don't bother.
All right, our second film. This was my pick. Nightmare Sisters. This was my pick, but someone has this in their physical media collection.
Yeah, me.
After watching this film, I have to ask why.
Because I found it in CEX.
Yep,
is the short answer. So
on the floor.
in the bin? I was just in there, not looking for anything in particular. I was just in there browsing the Blu-ray section, as you do. I'm usually looking for horror movies that I've not seen that look interesting, and it was a box set. It was a trilogy called, I think it's 80s Scream Queens.
Well, I mean, if it's got Linea Quigley, or as I've written here, Linea Quigley.
Linea Quigley. It's called 80s Scream Queens. So it's a trilogy. It's a triple feature box set with Nightmare Sisters. What else is in it? Murder Weapon and Deadly Embrace.
Okay.
And all those films star one or several of Linnea Quigley, Michelle Bauer, and Brink Stevens. And there's lots of boobies on the cover.
Yes,
and it was like £6. So I went, you know what?
The film itself.
You know what? I'll probably find something in that I'll enjoy watching. And then I bought it, and literally 2 days later, you went, "I've picked Nightmare Sisters for the pod." I was like, "Oh, really? That's because." So yeah, it just so happened that I had a copy of this to watch.
Yeah. This was I can't remember. Was this? I watched this on YouTube, and I have no idea how this is still on YouTube because there are a lot of boobies in this film.
There's a lot of, boobies, very outdated comedy.
Lines,
jokes.
Yes, I have them written down here, which I will dance around very carefully. So again, before we get into it, we need to talk about, and I mentioned this to you off camera. This Nightmare Sisters from 1988 is directed by David DeCotaeu.
Yeah.
Now, I discovered David DeCotaeu from what I've mentioned a few times. My favourite channels, Red Letter Media, and his films are very interesting, especially his, let's say, mid-2000s films. Now, we'll come back in a second because I need to link you a quick video. I need you to see something.
Okay.
This is we're just gonna quickly watch off camera a clip from David DeCotaeu's film called Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. Do you know who DB Cooper is?
DB Cooper, wasn't he a serial killer?
No, it was kind of like a conspiracy thing. So he was on a plane, and I don't know what specific plane. He basically said to their stewardess, "I have a bomb. I'm gonna blow
he hijacked a plane.
Gonna blow up the plane if government or whoever doesn't give me 200 grand." And back in it was like the 70s, 200 grand was a lot of money. They landed the plane, let the passengers off, kept the crew, I believe. I was very loosely remembering the story. Got his money. Plane went back up in the air. He jumped out the plane with parachute and his money, and has never been found since.
And they've never found him.
Yeah. This film called Bigfoot versus DB Cooper, utterly bizarre.
Yes.
But I just want to show you, the point I'm going to show you is not about the title, it's about the sort of film he makes. Okay?
Yeah.
So we'll be back in a sec. This is really important, by the way.
Overly long. Okay.
And the thing to go with that is to David DeCotaeu on IMDb. I've just linked you there.
I've googled him.
Look around his directorial movies from around the late noughts to.
Are we looking
noughties.
at Beastly Boys from 2006 by any chance?
No, we're looking at about 2009 onwards, where the film titles are 1313.
Oh yeah.
Look at
Cougar Cult.
Look at all of the posters. What's the common factor here?
I will open the IMDb because I think the
2012, Hercules Unbound, Night of the Widow, Frankenqueen, Voodoo Academy. There is a constant theme.
hang on, late 2000s. Christ, he's got a lot of shit, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has.
Yeah, lots of The Invisible Chronicles, lots of topless boys.
Lots of topless men.
They look, honestly, quite a lot of his films look like porn.
That's the thing. After
Cougar
watching
Cult,
this film, yeah.
Bigfoot Island, it's all, particularly the 1313 series, like you say, they all look like porn movies.
I have no idea if David DeCotaeu's intentions are aimed at, let's say, the LGBTQ community. Obviously, great, fair enough. But I don't think they are intentionally, if I'm honest. I just think this is him.
It's sort of like the other angle would be those like Bodice Ripper, like Fabio romance novels, you know, the pirates, the pirates kiss, and it's like a shirtless, like buff dude, or there's lots of weird ones that like, are very specific, like fetishes, I guess.
And the connection as well with the clip I just showed you, Bigfoot versus DB Cooper, directed by David DeCotaeu. Linea Quigley is in that, but only for one line voiceover. She's not physically in it.
I mean, young blood, fresh meat.
Yeah, his library is wild, isn't it?
I mean, well, yeah, and this is my main takeaway. Sorry, this is your pick, so you should be describing it really. But my main takeaway from this was it follows on quite well from our comedy and horror thing.
It does.
This is like a teen sex comedy with vaguely supernatural elements. It's like watching Porky's.
Yep.
And looking at his back catalogue, most of his films look like soft porn titillation.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and that's why I wanted to show you that clip, like from a more modern film of his, where he's kind of just got the same feeling, the same vibes going through it. Where with Nightmare Sisters, from about the halfway point onwards, we are watching a very softcore porn film.
It is, and like watching that the Red Letter Media
just
guys there joking about the long drawn out sections of men, half naked men running. There are lots of long drawn out sections of
we'll get into that,
ladies in the bath, but generally just dialogue. I was quite bored with this, I've got to say, because there's a lot of like long draw. Why are they still talking about having a party?
I've got notes on that. I know exactly what shot you're talking about.
Take it away. Take it away.
So Nightmare Sisters is incredibly... I'm surprised it's not a trauma film. It really feels like a trauma film.
Definitely.
The music, the writing, the characters, everything about it feels like a trauma film. It's so silly. It is quite a simple story. Three sorority sisters who are quite geeky, quite... I won't say loserish, but they're not the popular kids that you see in these sort of films, which we see with the guys, the other side of this story, the guys. We've got the nerdy guys and we've got the jock guys all living in this other sorority. These three sorority sisters, they want to throw a party. One of the sisters is a bit of a hoarder, and she picks up a load of junk, and one of these pieces of this junk seems to be this crystal ball, which we do see at the beginning of the film, which I don't even remember what happened in that scene. The only thing I remember what happens in that scene is a white guy doing an Indian accent, a really racist Indian accent. His name was Omar. He was like a psychic, and he had this ball. I don't remember really what happened there. I think it was more of a telling of the evil that's to come.
Well, he gets his head twisted off, doesn't he?
He does, yes, by the demon in this. So these three sorority sisters end up with this psychic ball. Comes into play later on.
My first note is just Nightmare Sisters, the year, racist impression. That's my first note.
Racist impression, homophobic lines.
Lots of homophobic lines. Anyway, sorry.
They call on these three little nerdy sorority. Is sorority the right word for both male and female? Fraternity and sorority. That's what I thought. Yeah. So fraternity boys, and like, oh gee whiz, we're gonna go to a party with some girls. The jock guys of the fraternity are like, You guys aren't going anywhere. As nah, just to get through these lines now. As they're telling the nerdy guys you're not allowed to leave the house because they're having a little tussle, they're having a little fight in their room.
I know which line.
You know, I've got them here, don't worry. The jock guys walk in. Let's just call them Jock 1, Jock 2, Jock 3.
Yeah.
And as they walk into the little nerdy guys' rooms, they have a little tussle. We get the lines of, looks like a bunch of cigarettes to me. You guys are
rhymes with cheering
off down there as they're tussling around on the floor. Can't remember what the nerdy guys are fighting over. I think it was to do with who the girl, which girl they get, or
it
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Another line: any homosexual activity here, all privileges are suspended and get a public humiliation. This is in their rule book of the fraternity. So they're not allowed to leave to go to this party. They end up sneaking out in the end by doing the old classic recording and the fake body and whatnot. The jocks Ferris
Bueller it.
The jocks find out, and they end up trying to find out where they've gone. They end up getting to the party where the nerdy guys have arrived. So nerdy guys have arrived at Linea Quigley's and her sister's sorority house. They end up having a quote unquote party. It's not a party I've ever seen.
It's a triple date. They're on a
triple date. Yeah, they're on a triple date. And the point during the party, they bring out the crystal ball. Would it be a seance? Or would it be a? What were they trying to?
I mean, that's how they describe it. Let's do a seance.
Yeah, and you need the pentagram drawn. You need the candles lit and all the rules. And our sisters, by doing this seance, our sisters turn into. This is the point where the softcore porn begins.
Yeah. Well, they become the nightmare sisters.
They become literal nightmare sisters, which we'll get into. So, back to the beginning of the film. Yeah. The beginning of this film, the scene you were talking about, we have the sisters talking about just nonsense for a good 5 minutes in one shot.
Yeah. We get character set up. So basically, the three girls have three personality quirks or tropes or whatever. There's the girl that likes cooking. There's Linea Quigley's Melody, who likes music,
singing. Oh my god!
And
we get that later on.
The other girl, I can't remember her name. It's they've all got M names.
Melody, Marcy, and Mickey.
I think it's Marcy is a history major, and she likes antiquing or collecting junk, and she's the one that gets the crystal ball. And they have this discussion that we find out that they're all the other girls in the sorority have gone away for the weekend. It's just them three. Let's invite some boys round and have a party. And what should be quick few dialogue lines, punchy, set it up, then carries on for another 5 minutes.
At least 5 minutes.
Get on with it.
What's actually impressive about it is that it is one continuous shot. I get the feeling there's a lot of ad lib there. Yeah,
probably because it does feel quite repetitive.
Because also, how many takes would he have taken? He hasn't got the budget to retake a 5 minute long shot.
This film was shot in 4 days, I believe.
Of course, it was.
It's actually in the end credits. The cast and crew are credited as the 4 day heroes or something like that. It's and while I think I can't remember if it's on IMDb or not, but while just sort of googling a little bit while watching it, I found an interview with Linea talking about how it was shot in 4 days. When she I think, it possibly was one of the other girls, I forget, but they were basically told, "Oh, we want you for this movie for 4 days," and she thought it was like, "Oh, I'll be on it for 4 days out of the entire shooting time," and no, what transpired was the whole thing was shot in 4 days.
Yeah,
and it shows.
It really does. Like we said, this one scene at the beginning where they're basically discussing having the party on the couch of their living room. It just goes on and on. A lot of these scenes felt like you're at an amateur dramatic show in a theatre, like with maybe a 20-seat theatre, like the backstreet theatre, and they're just sat there because because it's one shot. It's almost like you're there watching them on the stage. Because the dialogue was pretty crap, the context was pretty crap, and it just felt like you're watching these very amateur dramatic actors.
And it is. It's like you say, it feels like improv, and it feels like improv where they don't quite have the skills to push things forward.
Yeah.
So they're kind of just like, oh, let's have a party. And then it's like, yeah, we should have a party. Like,
it's fucking Who's Line. Okay, the setting. Yeah, so you're a sorority. You're going to have a party.
If we have a party, it's like, yeah, we need the next bit.
Yeah,
and
what's
then,
next?
And then we need the next bit. We've established there's going to be a party, but please, for the love of God, do something to get this party
Let's get going. Come on, let's get going. Do you notice how absurd Linea Quigley's fake front teeth were?
Yes.
I mean,
she was unrecognizable, really, when she was on that. It was like,
Oh, she was unrecognizable until she got naked. That's how you know.
Quigley.
Oh, it's her. I know her.
Yeah,
there she is.
Yeah, I mean, when the girls get possessed, then they become the titular, no pun intended, titular Nightmare Sisters. They are instantly just in underwear, and it's like it's Porky's.
It's a boner comedy. It's like a cheesy 80s boner comedy to begin with. Did you notice in the boys' room, the nerdy boys' room, they had a Creepazoids poster?
Yes, I did notice that. They also have a Southern Cross. The Confederate
flag.
The
yes,
Confederate flag.
That kind of. I feel like that should have been in the other fraternity guys' room.
The other boys' room. I mean, as soon as the sort of the jocks appear, I mean, as soon as you see that Letterman jacket, you just know that they're gonna be the bullies, and like the problematic dialogue aside, and the bad jokes and the things like that, like who talks like, is anybody in the history of ever actually said dialogue the way that they do, like talking, because a lot of innuendo because essentially jocks kidnap the nerdy guys to sort of try and replace them to make it with these hot babes.
Yeah, that's pretty much the second half where the jocks find out where they are.
In the history of the world ever said, in all seriousness, I want to make it with this hot babe? Like, it's just lines of dialogue like that.
Tell her about you.
Do people ever talk? Have people ever talked like that? Have they ever said things like that?
Maybe not where we're from. Like, maybe in America.
But I'm genuinely interested to know. Like, it's
babe.
What, 80s slang and
late 80s.
Yeah. Do have people ever talk like that? That sort of. I think it just goes back to that general. We get a lot of American media over here and high school comedies, and I've always wondered, has American college or American high school actually been like what is portrayed in films like Animal House and American Pie and Saved by the Bell? Or,
our boner comedies legit like a portrayal of what you'd expect in a school like that.
Do people actually talk like this and do these things?
Excuse me. So the second half film that you mentioned, the jocks end up at the house, the party, and they basically end up kidnapping one by one or swapping out each nerdy kid who was getting involved with one of the Nightmare Sisters. Since the sisters transform into the Nightmare Sisters, the nerdy kids are starting to feel a bit uneasy with what's going on. Obviously, because of what's happened.
Yeah, they know about the seance and the actual possession.
And after the cake scene, which we'll get onto in a minute, I need to talk about the cake scene. They all go their individual ways. Like one with, I don't remember the boys' names. One with Linea Quigley, one with Marcy, one with Melody, whatever. They all have their own settings. Like one is Linea on the piano, and one is in the bondage room. But the jock guys end up sneakily grabbing them, blindfolding them, tying them up with rope, and replacing them without the sisters even really noticing. And in the end, they end up being eaten, being killed.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really that they're not noticed. I think that they don't care because they possess them.
Yeah, they're succubus.
It's a succubus, and they're trying to think. And the other thing that's probably worth mentioning is you said that each of the girls has their personas as the sort of. I think they're described in one write-up as they transform into sexy vamps. One of them is leaning very innocent child schoolgirly sort of lollipop licking. It's very uncomfortable.
She's outside for most of the time.
In like a little pinafore dress, and my mummy and daddy are away to play. It's very disturbing.
I mean, half this film is quite disturbing, really. Once they've transformed, I mentioned so the girls are they come across quite geeky, quite nerdy, quite down in the dumps. When they transform, they are the polar opposite. They're basically not hardly wearing any clothes. They're just caressing themselves down. They're feeling themselves in a good way, feeling good vibes, and they are like that for the rest of the film. There's rarely a change of apparel, like apart from when you mentioned the girl outside with the lollipop and the pink outfit. They go to the kitchen. They have some cake. Again, it's a single camera shot, wide camera shot of this kitchen, and it feels like improv again. Here's some cake. Yeah. What should we do with it? I don't know. Let's rub it over us
on ourselves.
Wait, is this before or after the bath scene, which just goes
that's
on
before.
and on?
That's the reason why.
That's why they go have a bath.
Because they cover themselves in cake, and then
the other feeling of how this feels so amateur dramatic is the way they exit stage left. This doesn't look like a set in a way. This actually looks, it probably is a set, but it looks like a house. It looks like they're filming inside of an old house. But the way they exit the camera, they walk towards the camera and then exit stage, like stage left or stage right. It looks like they're coming off stage.
It does.
To the behind the curtain.
I think there's a lot of it as well. Is like, let's just keep the boobies on the screen for as much as possible, and if we can bring them all, because they do sort of parade sort of towards the camera, and it's like, let's get a good look at them. And then then we have a very long bath scene.
We do.
The nerdy boys watching them through the bathroom door, lock, and the jock boys watching them through the window outside. And it's a very long scene of
it feels
the girls like giggling and soaping themselves up, and I think Marcy does the same, like, "Ooh, where's the soap? Ooh, where's the soap?" acting like a lot. They only really have like one trick, I guess, because it's not going to progress into full-blown pornography. But there's also a limit to sort of what you can do splashing around in a bath. So it's like, you soap my back, I'll soap your. Yeah. And then a lot of the same footage is just reused again and again and again. Cut away to the boys and back in.
I want to get behind the thought process, the mindset of the director, and why. What is the importance of lingering on? Obviously we know what is the importance of it for the young gentleman.
The titillation.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
But it lingers there for so long, just a little up and down while they're just frolicking in the bath.
To the point where, like I said, I was quite for all the boobs jiggling about on screen.
Come on, let's get on with it.
I was quite bored. I was like, yes, okay, can we get on? With
too many boobs. There's too much boobage in this film.
It's like I wrote it down several times, like for all like bath time, but also having more long conversation.
You know what? Similar to what we said about Nightmare Radio. This about one of the stories, Nightmare Radio. The premise, I feel, could work if delivered better, like way better. Yeah. I feel like you short it. This is completely opposite. This could be maybe a short film in an anthology. I think with the premise. Because there's so much waffle you could cut out, as we've established.
Yeah. But, I mean, the only other DeCotaeu movie I've seen in full is Sorority Babes in the Slam Bolorama.
Oh my god!
Which the opening, it occurred to me like after watching Nightmare Sisters that the opening like third of that movie is essentially the same thing. There's extended scenes of nerdy guys spying on sorority girls through windows.
Yeah,
and it was literally just DeCotaeu's I'm gonna make a horror, and it's horror in the loosest.
Oh, completely. Yeah.
You know, we're halfway through the movie before we get like anything vaguely horror related with the girl transforming with the teeth. And then it cuts away. There's no gore in there. No,
it's all the implication of John Thomas being bitten off, which then releases smoke.
And they evaporate,
Yeah.
You get your ween a bit off and you evaporate. That's what happens.
The only other DeCotaeu film I've ever seen is a talking cat. ? It's about a talking cat.
Is that the title of the film?
Yeah,
it's got one about a talking horse.
Man, the man's everywhere. All right, the man's everywhere. The man's a hard worker.
No. He's got one called A Talking Pony! ! Exclamation mark! Exclamation mark!
He's going through the.
So there's one about a cat as well.
The man is a hard worker. Okay.
I think I'm rapidly becoming his biggest fan as we're talking more about it, and I'm seeing.
More a hell of a library.
More of the titles of the film.
He directed Puppet Master 3.
I know. Well, he did more than one. I think 3 and 2.
A talking cat is about a cat that can only talk to people once.
Yes,
once.
Talking cat. Oh, you know what? I'm starting a new collection.
The David DeCotaeu collection.
I'm starting a David DeCotaeu collection. I think I owe it to myself.
So many films.
I know, he really does. Halloween Puppy. I love the juxtaposition between like softcore porn horrors and talking animal films.
Yeah.
Like there is two passions in life. I love that.
Swamp Freak. 6 college students go into the wetlands to find their missing professor after he takes off in the search of a mythical and deadly monster known as the Swamp Freak.
And then he's also made like a Hallmark movie called Christmas Matchmakers.
My Christmas Grandpa.
As opposed to your spring break grandpa or your like, Labor Day grandpa or Shrove Tuesday grandpa.
3 Scream Queens.
I think we need to try and, for a future episode, watch a whole bunch of David DeCotaeu films and do a full.
Oh, men are running topless in this one. Free Scream. It's called Free Scream Queens with Linea Quigley. 2014. Okay. This is a bit meta. Alexis, Sylvia, and Ellen, one of them played by Linea, are a trio of legendary Scream Queens. After the head of a motion picture studio invites them all to a very special screening in exchange for the possibility of, this keeps going, of lead role in an upcoming horror film, the 3 women slowly become suspicious, not only of their circumstances, but also of each other. They begin to realise that the horrific footage they are watching might be real, and they might be trapped in a deserted studio with a bona fide killer.
Brilliant. Well, while we've been discussing this,
Man's
I've
genius.
had the IMDb page up for Sorority Babes in the Slam Bolorama.
Oh, yeah.
And there is a muted trailer that is essentially just a lot of DeCotaeu films running, and it is the most distracting thing I've ever seen in my life. But it's funny that you say that that's a little bit meta, because Linnea Quigley has the line Nightmare Sisters where they're talking about watching horror films early on, and she says, "Oh, I can't do that stuff. One stupid zombie flick is enough for me." And I was like, "Oh, I like that. That is cheeky. That's cheeky little meta reference."
Yes.
To say she's gone on to do several.
Yeah, trash in Return of the Living Dead. Come on. And she gets impaled in Silent Night, Deadly Night.
So,
let's go back to Nightmare Sisters. When so you said that each kind of each sister has their own quirk, and obviously Linea Quigley's is her singing. there's a point where she seduces one of the guys to come over to the piano and she performs her song. And that just keeps going. It just keeps going throughout the scene.
We get a full performance of Hollywood Boulevard Boy, I believe it's called.
Full performance.
By the Slits.
But it keeps going over the top of another scene. Of another girl, another sister.
Yeah. We get... there's the soundtrack for this movie is that sort of 80s punk.
Oh yeah, thing. It is, yeah.
But there are only really two bands on it, and one is Linea Quigley performing with the Slits, that Hollywood Boulevard Boy song. The other one is a band called Haunted Garage, or Garage, if you prefer.
Or Carhold, if you say it right.
if you're not fancy, Carhold.
Mr. La-di-da.
And they provide all the music for the rest of the film. So tracks titled Sorority Sister Succubus, Brain in a Jar, Yumpin Yimini, Suck on My Chimney, Incredible Two-Headed Transplant, and then Santa Monica Boulevard Boy. Sorry, the Skirts, not the Slits. Linnea Quigley and the Skirts. But yeah, Haunted Garage. But the frontman of Haunted Garage is the guy that plays Omar, the psychic.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes, he. I can't remember the name of the guy now, but yeah, he. Is...
I just want to say, Omar. I did mention it sounded like an Indian accent. It might not be. I was just. It was an accent that did not match his ethnicity for one bit.
I mean, I think it appeared from The Simpsons. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I think Indian is what he was, or he's supposed to be some sort of
other than this film, I don't think Linea Quigley gets enough praise for being a top tier scream queen of the 80s in horror. Everyone goes to your Jamie Lee Curtis, Sigourney Weaver. Linea Quigley was really in a lot of, maybe not so big hitters, but cult horror films. And
that's the difference, though, isn't it? It's big hitters versus cult.
Return of the Living Dead, Savage Street, Silent Night, Deadly Night, Night of the Demons, Tourist Trap, Day. Auditions. I'm trying to think of the Graduation Day. Creepzoids, Hollywood Chainsaw Hookers,
Zombie Games,
Nightmare Sisters. In case you weren't aware,
Hooker with a Hacksaw,
just like
Grindhouse Nightmares, which was on my list for potential picks for this episode.
Nightmare in the title, yes. So how did the sisters get subdued? Well, the boys end up calling an exorcist over. Very comical exorcist. I thought it was I thought it was Clu Gulager at first.
Oh, really?
And it was not. It looked a bit like him. And how do you subdue a succubus? A net. A big net.
A net. We've got some rope.
We've got some rope. They end up sort of calling out the true succubus from the actual demon from the psychic ball, the crystal ball, which comes out. Kind of looks like it's from Ghostbusters a little bit.
I couldn't work out if it was a mask.
I think it was. It looked like a mask.
My first impression was that it was a mask.
Yeah.
The whole scene, the whole succubus stuff is shot so closely.
Very close.
To hide the fact that it is literally just somebody, probably Linnea, in a mask with some
probably.
like rubber gloves, like some rubber glove hands, like flipping about. We don't see any more than the face and the hand.
No, we do not, and it's not actually out for that long.
Very poor wig. Well.
Very, very, very poor effects. Yeah. Is it at this point I took down this line as well that I now can't remember who says it. One of the sisters says, "I want your throbbing python of love." and I can't remember the setting, but I just remember that line was fantastic.
Is it
fantastic?
Is it not when we get the first jock? Because she's in like a jungle.
Yeah. The room just changed to a jungle.
Like the jungle theme.
She's in the Crystal Maze jungle zone.
Yeah, with like animal sounds playing in the background, and he makes a reference. She's like, "Oh yeah, me Jane, you Tarzan," and he makes some reference to Cheetah the chimpanzee and stuff.
So yeah, this is before they get captured by the dangerous net. Yes,
there's a lot of lines like that though. Like it's all really forced innuendo.
Yeah,
there's one. I'm a plumber. Check out my pipes. There is actually dialogue like that.
Yeah, yeah. So our exorcist, they bring out the demon, and they capture the sisters in the big net, the big spooky, scary, tough net, and you can see them as they're captured in the net. The net isn't really tied around them that tightly. The net is wiggling around, and they're trying to act like they're caught and they can't escape.
Nobody ever. Nets have always bothered me in media. It was always a thing in like cartoons of like the turtles and stuff like that, because they couldn't actually use their ninja weapons on people. So Leonardo wouldn't stab somebody with a sword. He'd cut a rope and a net would fall on them, and it'd be like, one, why are there always nets suspended up in the ceilings of warehouses? These are questions I wanted answered, child. And two, like, why can't they just... There'd always be an animation of them scrabbling around in a circle under the net, and it's like, just come out from underneath it. The edge is right there.
It's like a duvet on top of you, just lift it up. Yeah. And they end up destroying the demon by... an American football move saves the day. One of the nerds is like, I got to do this play. I'm going to need to do this play to save the day. And it's how does he throw the ball?
Yeah, and they do that thing as well where they're making an American football reference, so we start getting like big band, like back that sort, whatever, while he throws a home run into the net or however it works.
The ball gets thrown, the ball gets destroyed, which saves the day. Removes the demon, the succubus from the ladies, and we are back to normal. They've saved the day. We have the sisters.
They all remain hot though. They don't transform back into their previous incarnation. So
we couldn't find the teeth. We couldn't find the fake teeth.
There. Possession. It's like giving yourself a tapeworm to lose weight. Just like take some. Just have a little bit of possession to
just a little bit.
To get that makeover, get that succubus makeover, and then get rid.
And that's pretty much the end of the film. It's it's like both films. There's very little meat into these films.
I mean, they are two very different films as well. I mean,
very different.
Nightmare Radio is, I'd say, a serious attempt at horror.
Yeah.
Whereas this is a boner college comedy with some very slight supernatural twists to it. Like, it's a stretch to call Nightmare Sisters a horror, I think.
I think you're completely right. Well, don't say that, because we're trying to include it in our horror podcast.
No, I mean, as we discussed in the last episode, horror in comedy or comedy in horror. This is definitely a horror in comedy. But it's very light on it. And I guess a lot of it is probably budget and time, but there's no gore, there's no, you know what I mean? If they'd have pushed, if it had been more of a trauma type of thing with a lot more over-the-top gore and stuff like that,
I think it would have worked a bit better.
It would have been a bit better. Yeah, I think so.
And you really, like I say, again, it really did feel like a trauma film, to be fair, to begin with.
It did. I mean, it's got all those, that's their bread and butter, isn't it? Boobs and monsters and silliness. It 100% could be. And, Trauma aren't the only game in town doing that.
No. David DeCotaeu.
They're just the big leagues of the B movie, I guess.
It's very much a film. It is a film of two halves. At the midway point is when they become the Nightmare Sisters, and it just transforms into Nudity.
Yeah, but yeah, take out the seance, and it is Porky's or Animal House and something like that. The difference is I would recommend watching. This is a fun one. This is one to say, like, get a few beers, watch it with friends, and it's one of those kind of seeing is believing sort of things, because it's just too ludicrous.
Yeah, this is what I said at the beginning. One of these films, like, they're both rubbish, but I'll remember one of them, and it's this one. I will remember. I won't forget this film.
No,
not shot by shot, but I'll remember it. The Nightmares Radio, those shorts are gonna get lost in my memory. The short films. I'm not going to remember it as well. And yeah, they're both bad, but at least I know I could have fun. Talk about this one.
I think the obvious difference is you'd go to Nightmare Creatures expecting it to be bad.
Nightmare Sisters.
That's Sisters. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, you would. I did expect it to be really.
You know what I mean? This
trashy,
is exactly. It's trashy B movie. You know, boobs and gore, but obviously in this case without the gore. Whereas, not that I was expecting great things from Nightmare Rain, but there was an outside chance that it might have been good, or some of those shorts could have been, pretty standout and entertaining. Whereas this is schlocky sleaze, and it's exactly that kind of vibe, and
it knows what it is.
Yeah, and in fairness, it does. It
really does.
It doesn't try to be anything else, really. No. If anything, it probably leans too far into
a little bit,
into it.
Well, where do we stand?
I mean, if we've got to pick a winner, then it's got to be Nightmare Sisters, isn't it? Really,
I'm glad you said that. I agree.
I probably would watch Nightmare Sisters again.
Yeah, I agree. Nightmare Sisters is the winner out of both of them for sure.
And as I say, I am definitely going to start looking for more DeCotaeu films.
You've got to.
You've got to. Just think they need it. They need some more appreciation. They're going to be my future picks from now on.
Nightmare Sisters is our inaugural winner on Raven-sized coffin pick, or whatever it is.
Raven-sized coffin.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun.
That was fun. That was a good
little experiment.
We've done it. We've broken the cherry of the new series.
Yeah, we have indeed,
and it worked. And I think we're going to have an easier time next film selections.
I hope so. It's the years that I think has thrown us 75 to 80 with camp in the title. At least we don't have the minute constraint, but I think that's what's going to be tougher, the years. But we shall see. That will be next month on Raven-sized Coffin. Insert name here. We shall see. We'll let you know on the social medias and the next episodes if we find films ahead of schedule. We'll let you know what they are. And also on the social medias, you'll find the video with content earlier in this episode relating to the next installment in this coffin. Sorry, this series where you can help us pick a film or give us more topics to put into the coffin. And just get involved, pretty much. Great. So Nightmare Sisters is the winner. Next time was your pick again. Paul O'Grady's
The Devil Rides Out. Paul O'Grady's The Devil Rides Out.
Yeah, Paul O'Grady's The Devil Rides Out. Looking forward to it. And then obviously following that, Simpsons Treehouse of Horror 7 and 8, and the next Raven-sized coffin pick. So plenty to come in May. As per usual, check all this out and all past content and the last episode, Comedy and Horror and Comedy, on YouTube and Amazon, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, Google, Samsung, and all major streaming services by searching The Dreadcast. and all social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, _Dreadcast.
And if you're still listening, we're going to plug it once more. You can always email us, thedreadcast@gmail.com.
No point, though, is there?
There's no point.
No point. It was an experiment tried.
Stop plugging.
Yeah, we tried
I
it.
think that might be the last time I mention it. I mean, it'll still be there. It'll still exist. But
oh yeah.
You'll have to message us on Twitter to tell us that you've sent us an email because it probably won't get checked.
yeah. Let message us somewhere else to let us know you've messaged us somewhere else. Right. Okay. Great. That was superb. I'm glad that worked. Until next time, then, folks. Take care. Look after yourselves.
Thanks for listening. Bye bye.
And goodbye.